Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be taking a look at the special education teacher shortage all across the country.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at this presentation that was given to school administrators by a true expert in the field named Anu.
Okay.
And joining me to kind of unpack all this is someone who has really seen this firsthand.
Well, thanks for having me.
And we're going to try to explore not just the why this is happening, but also potential solutions, both for the short term and then also what can we do for the long haul. I think our listeners will be really surprised to learn just how widespread this problem is.
Mhm.
Think about this. Over half of public schools across the U.S. were trying to fill special education positions just as recently as March of this year.
Oh, wow.
So to kind of kick things off, maybe you could share a little bit about some of your own experiences with this issue.
Sure. Yeah.
What's been maybe the most striking thing you've observed in your work?
Yeah. You know, I think one of the most powerful things I've seen is the incredible impact that a truly dedicated special education teacher can have on a student's life.
Yeah.
I remember working with this young man, let's call him David, who had significant learning challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And he really struggled in that traditional classroom setting. And he felt like he just couldn't keep up.
Mm-hmm.
But with the support of his special education teacher, Miss Johnson, everything changed for him. She really took the time to understand his individual needs, and she crafted an IEP that played to his strengths and really advocated for him every step of the way.
Okay, so I can already see this is about way more than just numbers.
Right.
We're talking about, real lives being impacted here.
Exactly. And David went from, feeling defeated to feeling empowered.
Wow.
He discovered this passion for creative writing, and he even won a school-wide poetry competition.
Oh, wow.
And it's these stories like David's that, remind me why this issue is so critical. Because when we don't have enough qualified special education teachers, we risk denying students like David the opportunity to reach their full potential.
Absolutely. And that's such a great segue to what Anu highlighted in his presentation to school administrators was just the sheer demand for special ed teachers just isn't being met.
Right.
And you mentioned the supply and demand problem earlier.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely.
Go.
So, we have a growing number of students with disabilities who require specialized instruction and support,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not seeing a corresponding increase in the number of individuals entering the special education field.
Right.
So this creates this gap that can have serious consequences for students,
Yeah.
leading to, larger class sizes,
Mm-hmm.
less individualized attention,
Right.
and in some cases, even the need to hire underqualified teachers.
So what's driving this shortage? Anu, in his presentation, really emphasized the tough working conditions.
Yeah, it's a multifaceted problem.
Okay.
And, those challenging working conditions are definitely a major factor.
Right.
Special education teachers often face an overwhelming workload, creating and implementing those individualized education
Oh,
programs,
yeah. The IEPs.
or IEPs, yes,
Right.
are incredibly time-consuming.
Yeah. And I was going to ask that for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with IEPs, what actually goes into creating one? It sounds like a lot more than just coming up with some lesson plans.
It is. It's a very collaborative process.
Okay.
So the special education teacher has to work closely with the student, their parents,
Mm-hmm.
general education teachers, specialists like speech therapists or occupational therapists,
Right.
and even administrators.
Wow.
So, they have to conduct assessments,
Mm-hmm.
analyze data sets, specific learning goals, and outline the accommodations and supports that will help the student achieve those goals.
Wow, that sounds intense.
Yeah, it is.
No wonder these teachers are feeling overwhelmed.
Right.
What else is contributing to this sense of burnout?
Well, beyond, just the sheer volume of work. Yeah. Many special education teachers report feeling this lack of resources.
Mm-hmm.
They might not have access to the latest curriculum, materials, assistive technologies,
Mm-hmm.
or even enough support staff to effectively implement those IEPs.
Right.
And then there's this often overlooked issue of administrative support.
Yeah.
Feeling valued,
Mm-hmm.
recognized and supported by administrators
Mm.
can make a huge difference in a teacher's job satisfaction and their decision to stay in the profession.
Oh, for sure.
But unfortunately, many special ed teachers feel like they're on their own,
Right.
which leads to burnout and ultimately, many of them leaving the field.
So we've got this perfect storm brewing,
Yeah.
high workload, limited resources, and a lack of support.
Right.
No wonder schools are struggling to fill these positions.
Yeah.
So what can be done, at least in the short term, to try to stop the bleeding? Anu mentioned using existing staff, like
Yeah.
maybe reading specialists, counselors, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to ask, isn't that just putting a Band-Aid on a much larger wound?
Yeah.
And wouldn't it potentially overload those other teachers who are already stretched thin?
You're hitting on a really critical point.
Okay.
So relying solely on existing staff, like you said, reading specialists or counselors, to fill those special education roles should only be considered a temporary emergency measure.
Right.
It's not a sustainable solution. And we had to be very mindful of the potential for burnout among those other staff members as well.
So how do we make sure we're not just shifting the burden?
Yeah.
What needs to be happening alongside these temporary measures?
That's where those long-term solutions come in.
Okay.
We need to address the root causes of this shortage if we want to see real lasting change. And yes, competitive salaries and loan forgiveness programs are definitely part of the equation,
Yeah.
but we need to go beyond simply throwing money at the problem.
It sounds like we need to be thinking bigger and bolder.
Yeah.
What are some of those maybe more innovative long-term solutions that you think could really move the needle?
Well, one promising approach is to create clearer, more enticing pathways into the special education profession.
I'm all ears.
So think about, partnerships between school districts and universities. Imagine establishing these robust dual enrollment programs where aspiring special ed teachers can begin gaining practical experience while they're still in college.
Yeah.
Or residency models where new teachers get, a year or two of intensive paid classroom experience under the guidance of these experienced mentor teachers.
No, that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
So we're talking about not just attracting people to the field, but really setting them up for success once they're in the classroom.
Exactly. And, while competitive salaries are crucial, we also need to think about, other incentives that might attract talented individuals to the field.
Like what? Sign-on bonuses? Free lattes for life?
Well, free coffee is always appreciated.
Okay.
I'm thinking more along the lines of, loan forgiveness programs,
Right.
specifically tailored for special education teachers, or even, state and federal grants to help offset the cost of education.
Okay.
Some states are even offering, housing stipends or relocation assistance to entice teachers to those high-need areas.
Those are all great ideas.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot of creative problem-solving happening out there.
There is.
But even with all these incentives to attract new teachers, what about retaining the incredible teachers we already have?
Yeah.
It seems like we're constantly losing those experienced educators due to those tough working conditions we talked about earlier. How do we address that piece of the puzzle?
That's where creating a truly supportive school environment comes into play.
Okay.
We need to shift the culture so that special education teachers feel valued, respected, and supported. That means providing, strong mentorship programs for new teachers,
Okay.
offering, ongoing professional development opportunities that are relevant and engaging,
Right.
and ensuring that administrators prioritize the well-being of their special education staff.
So we're not just talking about professional development, we're talking about emotional support, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, when teachers feel supported, they're more likely to stay in the profession.
Right.
And that benefits everyone. But before we go any deeper into these solutions, I think it's important to take a step back and really consider why this issue matters so deeply. Why should you, our listeners, care about the special education teacher shortage?
We'll be right back after this quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back to our deep dive into the special education teacher shortage. Before the break, we were talking about all the reasons behind this crisis. And I have to say, it's easy to get caught up in the numbers and the logistics of it all.
Yeah.
But as you pointed out earlier, this is about real students and their futures.
It is.
Yeah.
And, sometimes the impact of this shortage is felt most acutely in those individual stories.
Right.
I've seen firsthand how a lack of qualified special education teachers can ripple through a school.
It's affecting not only students with disabilities, but their classmates, teachers, and even administrators. So it's not just about fairness for those students. It's about the success of the entire school community. Exactly. How does that play out in like a real world scenario? Okay, so imagine a general education classroom where a student with autism is struggling to participate.
Okay.
If there aren't enough special education teachers to provide that support and guidance, that student might act out, disrupting the learning environment for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
The general education teacher might feel overwhelmed and ill-equipped to handle this situation,
Right.
leading to frustration and stress.
And that can snowball pretty quickly, I imagine.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
creates this ripple effect.
Oh.
Parents might start to worry that their children aren't getting the attention they need,
Right.
leading to tension and a breakdown in communication with the school.
Hmm.
The administrator is caught in the middle, trying to manage these competing demands with limited resources.
Ultimately, it's a lose-lose situation for everyone involved.
But when we have enough qualified special education teachers, things look very different.
Absolutely.
Right.
Imagine that same student with autism.
Okay.
But this time, there's a dedicated special education teacher who can work with that student one-on-one,
Mm-hmm.
helping them develop social skills and coping mechanisms.
Right.
That teacher can also collaborate with the general education teacher, providing strategies and resources to create a more inclusive classroom environment.
So it's about proactive support rather than reactive crisis management.
Precisely. And when those supports are in place,
Yeah.
everyone benefits.
Mm.
Students with disabilities feel this sense of belonging and can thrive academically and socially.
Right.
Their classmates learn these valuable lessons about empathy and inclusion.
Mm.
General education teachers feel more confident and supported,
Right.
and parents feel reassured that their children are getting the individualized attention they need.
It sounds like investing in special education isn't just about doing the right thing. It's also about creating a more effective and harmonious learning environment for all students.
Exactly. But beyond the immediate impact on schools,
Yeah.
there's a broader societal issue at play here.
Okay.
When we fail to provide quality special education,
Mm-hmm.
we limit the potential of an entire generation of individuals with disabilities.
So this isn't just an education issue, it's
Yeah.
a social justice issue.
That's right. Think about the message we send when we don't prioritize special education.
Yeah.
We're essentially saying that these students aren't as valuable,
Right.
that their contributions don't matter as much,
Mm-hmm.
and that couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
Individuals with disabilities have so much to offer.
Yeah.
Unique perspectives, talents, and abilities.
We need to be fostering those talents, not stifling them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by investing in special education,
Mm-hmm.
we're not just investing in individual students, we're investing in our collective future.
That's a really powerful way to think about it.
Yeah,
So you've convinced me this issue matters. And it matters deeply.
it does.
But I know our listeners are probably wondering, what can I do about it?
Right.
I'm just one person. How can I make a real difference in this seemingly overwhelming crisis?
That's a great question. And it's one that Inu addressed head-on in his presentation.
Okay.
He really emphasized that tackling this challenge requires a collective effort.
Mm.
It's not just the responsibility of schools and policymakers,
Mm.
it's a community issue.
Okay.
And that means there's a role for all of us to play.
Okay, so walk us through some of those roles.
Sure.
What are some concrete actions our listeners can take to get involved and make a difference?
Okay. So one of the most impactful things you can do is advocate for increased funding
Sure.
for special education programs. And that means at the local level,
Mm-hmm.
the state level, and the national level.
So get out there and make some noise.
Exactly. Contact your elected officials.
Yeah.
Attend school board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Let them know that special education funding is a priority for you as a constituent, and be persistent.
Keep those emails and phone calls coming.
Right. Another powerful way to get involved is by volunteering your time and skills.
Okay.
At local schools, you don't need to be a certified teacher to make a difference.
Right.
You can offer to tutor students,
Mm-hmm.
help with classroom activities,
Yeah.
or even just provide an extra pair of hands to support teachers.
So many ways to contribute. I love that.
Even something as simple as reading to a child
Yeah.
or helping with a craft project
Right.
can free up the teacher's time to focus on those more demanding tasks.
Right.
And you never know, you might just discover a passion for working with these incredible kids.
I think that's what's so important for people to realize. It's not just about donating money.
Right.
It's about donating our time and our talents
Yeah,
and really just showing up for these students and teachers.
exactly. And if you're looking for a way to make a more systemic impact,
Mm-hmm.
consider supporting organizations that advocate for the rights of students with disabilities
Okay.
and promote inclusive education practices.
So many options for getting involved,
Mhm.
whether it's volunteering in a classroom,
Mm-hmm.
donating to an organization, or simply raising awareness among your friends and family.
Right.
Every action counts.
It really does. And remember, even just having conversations about the importance of special education
Yeah.
and the challenges these teachers face can go a long way in shifting perspectives and inspiring action.
That's so true. Every conversation plants a seed.
It does.
So, deep divers, as we wrap up this exploration of the special education teacher shortage, we want to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
What role can you play in creating a more inclusive and supportive educational experience for all students?
It's a question we all need to ask ourselves because the future of education depends on all of us working together to ensure that every student, regardless of their abilities, has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Thanks for joining us for this important conversation, and until next time, keep diving deep.
So one of the most impactful things you can do is advocate for increased funding for special education programs. That means at the local level, the state level, and the national level.
So get out there and make some noise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Contact your elected officials, attend school board meetings. Let them know that special education funding is a priority for you as a constituent, and be persistent.
Keep those emails and phone calls coming.
Right? Another powerful way to get involved is by volunteering your time and skills at local schools.
Oh?
You don't need to be a certified teacher to make a difference. You can offer to tutor students,
Right.
help with classroom activities, or even just provide an extra pair of hands to support teachers.
So many ways to contribute. I love that.
Even something as simple as reading to a child or helping with a craft project can free up the teacher's time to focus on those more demanding tasks.
Yeah.
And you never know, you might just discover a passion for working with these incredible kids.
I think that's what's so important for people to realize. It's not just about donating money.
Right.
It's about donating our time and our talents.
Yeah.
And really just showing up for these students and teachers.
Exactly. And if you're looking for a way to make a more systemic impact, consider supporting organizations that advocate for the rights of students with disabilities and promote inclusive education practices.
So many options for getting involved, whether it's volunteering in a classroom, donating to an organization, or simply raising awareness among your friends and family. Every action counts.
It really does. And remember, even just having conversations about the importance of special education and the challenges these teachers face can go a long way in shifting perspectives and inspiring action.
That's so true. Every conversation plants a seed.
It does.
So, deep divers, as we wrap up this exploration of the special education teacher shortage, we want to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
What role can you play in creating a more inclusive and supportive educational experience for all students?
It's a question we all need to ask ourselves because the future of education depends on all of us working together to ensure that every student, regardless of their abilities, has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Thanks for joining us for this important conversation, and until next time, keep diving deep.